Well, I have to come clean, first of all. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. But when I went down for 2 weeks and stayed at the village and then I left and I was going on the airplane to go home, I thought to myself, I am never going back to Honduras. But then I got home and I continued to pray about it, and all I could see in my head were the kids at the village, and just God changed my heart, and He said, no, you're supposed to be there. I want you to go and serve in heart to heart. I don't want you to be a father to those kids who don't have many father figures in their lives. So now 3 years later, or 2.5 years, whatever it is, I'm still there, and God's still called me there, so I'm excited to be there. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm excited just to get to share a little bit about my story and what I've done in Heart to Heart and what I think God is doing. So 2.5 years ago, or a little bit over 2 years ago, I started teaching at the Mary Frencher Bilingual School. And, you know, as a teacher, I would go around the classroom and I would help the kids as they needed help after I'd given them their assignment. And it was always a fun adventure when I came to Wendy's desk. Okay? Many of you know who Wendy is. And 2 years ago, she was a much different person than she is today, if you know her today. 2 years ago, when I came to her desk, there would always be a preliminary 20 seconds of giggling, nervous laughter, and rocking back and forth as she would go, I know, Mr. Jordan, tengo pena. She said, oh, that means I'm shy. So she would be giggling and laughing. Sometimes she would get into an incontrollable laughter that I would just have to leave her and go back like 5 minutes later. But usually it would subside after about 20 seconds, and I would go on to help her. But today what's cool is that Wendy is a much different person. Now she's still fun and giggling, she still gets into laughing fits, but God is continuing to restore and equip Wendy for the future. And over the last couple of years, Wendy's gained so much more confidence in who she is and who God's created her to be and who God is in her life. It's so cool to see. And I marveled at the end of last year as her teacher, when I would go to her desk and she would raise her hand, or we would have flags that they would raise for us to come to help them. I would go and help Wendy, and she would just turn to me confidently and in English say, oh, Mr. Jordan, can you help me with this? She was just eager to learn, and she was confident in who she was. It was so cool to see how God is continuing to change and equip her. But this is only part of the transformation in Wendy's life. Over the last couple of years, I've seen just a radical transformation. Wendy has always had a heart to go back and serve as a missionary in her hometown of Las Flores. It's a small mountain town in the mountains of Honduras. And God is continuing to equip her to one day do that. I see over these last couple of years that what God's doing is equipping her for her future. And what's cool is that last year she already got a chance to be a missionary to her hometown. In May 2014, a team came to the United States, the same team that I was on a crusade with the first time I went down to Honduras. They came down and they needed some interpreters, and so some of our older kids got to be interpreters, and Wendy was asked to be one of those interpreters. Now 2 years ago, this would have been an impossible task for Wendy. Not only because her English wasn't that great then, but because she would be so incredibly shy to do something like that. But God had continued to equip her for His calling on her life. And Wendy went, and Wendy did a great job. When Wendy got back from this trip, it was so fun to hear the stories from her. She came up to me and said, Mr. Jordan, oh, Mr. Jordan, it was so amazing. We went, and there was this man that we prayed for. He was blind, and we held up fingers, and we asked him, how many fingers am I holding up? And he said, I don't know. And so then we prayed for him, and God healed him. We held up our fingers, and we said, how many fingers am I holding up? And the man said, 4. Mr. Jordan, it was so amazing. God healed him. Just to see the transformation and the excitement in Wendy. These last few years, things like that have made it all worth it. Seeing what God's doing in these children's lives to equip them and prepare them for the future. Now, Wendy loves to pray for people when they're sick, right? Wendy lives in your house.
Yeah.
She loves to pray for people when they're sick because she knows that the power of God can do something in their life. From what she's experienced already. But Wendy's just one story among many of the children in Heart to Heart who God's continuing to restore their lives each day. And it's amazing to see the difference. God's taking children who are abandoned, who are starving, abused, or neglected, and God's redeeming their stories. Their stories might have been tragic in the beginning, but God's story of restoration in their lives is miraculous. The ones who at one time were forgotten, I think now are the ones who will literally change a nation, I believe.
Yes.
Amen.
And this is what I'm excited about in the lives of our kids right now. Many, as Mary said, over half are teenagers. Many are on the verge of venturing into college and life beyond. And that's great news. Why is that great news? Not because they're leaving us. But to me, it's great news because we will see that the impact of Heart to Heart is going to begin to grow exponentially over these next few years. What we've started in a few is going to spread to so many more because of what God's prepared and equipped them for the future. The impact of Heart to Heart is going to grow. And I believe that the ultimate restoration of these kids is not just allowing God to restore their own lives, but it's when they begin to become the conduits of restoration to others. When God begins to use them to bring more people in in Honduras and all over the world to restoration and back to Him. The children are restored, I believe, to become restorers. So we're on the edge of something that's both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. It's exhilarating because we can see the impact of Heart to Heart grow so much over these next few years. As we see a new crop of Honduran leaders go out from Heart to Heart and make a radical impact on their country. Now, it's also terrifying because we might finish our work with the kids, and when they go out, we find out that they can't quite make it on their own. That's a realistic thing that we have to face. And I know I've never been a parent before, but I'm pretty sure parents go through many of the similar feelings when they send their kids off to college and into real life. So for these last few years, our hope is that we can do the best job we can to prepare them for the future. And that's part of the reason I'm in Honduras this year, and part of the reason God's called me there, I believe, is to help these last few years with the teenagers to prepare them for the future. And so me and my friends, Gerardo and Alana Ramirez, and also Michaela Gronseth with the girls, have started this thing we're calling Transformación Leadership. I'm excited about this. And in these last couple of years that we have with the teenagers, we want to equip them for the future. Their past has greatly affected their story, but their past is not the end of their story. Our hope is that in the next few years, we'll be able to help launch them into a future that's different. A future that includes the ability to be faithful husbands and wives, loving fathers, great mothers, successful workers, contributing citizens, and missionaries into the workplace and all over the world, wherever God calls them. That's our desire for this leadership program. And I know that each of these teenagers, these are the 9 boys living with us, and there's 14 girls in the teen girls' house. Each of them has so much potential to grow and to impact their country. I'm excited to see what God's going to do. Through this program, our goals are kind of fourfold. We want to see 4 things happen. We want to engage the teenagers in a positive home atmosphere and a church community. We want to establish a Christ-like character that will be the foundation of everything in their life after this. We want to equip the teenagers with life skills for the future. Some of them, now here's an example. We had one of the teenage boys come to our house, and for some reason we weren't home, or something. Some reason we had to give him the keys to open the door. He took the keys, he went to the door, he didn't know how to put that key in the lock the right way. Some of them just need some basic life skills for the future. How to open a lock, how to drive a car, how to set up a bank account, how to show up on time for a job, how to wake up on time in the morning. Basic things, things for the future, life skills for the future. And we're going to do that this next couple of years. And we want to empower them not only just to be restored, to be people who have been restored and who are surviving, but we want to empower them to be leaders in their country.
Good.
We want them to thrive. We don't just want them to survive. We want them to thrive and to impact so many more lives for Jesus and for just the future of Honduras. One of the boys in our program is named Luis. Luis will soon be 19 years old and entering college. Luis is a future leader of Honduras. Early on a cool morning, at least for Honduras, I sat with Luis and he told me some of his story. He wanted me to be able to share some of his story with you. He told me, when I was 9 years old, my family didn't have enough money to buy food. So I used to go downtown San Pedro Sula and beg for money. For children, it was illegal to beg for money. So the police would often come by and they would take me away, and usually they would take me back home. They did this 6 times. The 7th time, they didn't take me home. Instead, they took me to INFA. And you've heard about INFA before. INFA was the children's home run by the Honduran government. Kids usually didn't have enough food. Luis said many times they would bring the food to them and it would be raw, it wasn't even cooked. They only had one set of clothes to wear. The situation, like we've heard before, is just not great for kids. But after 1 month, Luis came to Heart, and he told me that his time at Heart has been an incredible blessing. At Heart, Luis has learned about Jesus. He's met so many gringos. He loves to meet gringos. He loves to speak in English. He's learned English. If you've ever met Luis, he'll sit down and talk to you for a long time. He loves to talk. And he loves Christmas at the village, he says. He feels tremendously fortunate for his time at Heart. Soon, Luis hopes to go to college, and he's thinking of studying nursing and using that to be a missionary to his hometown in Honduras. He says that my vision is to study to be a nurse and to meet more gringos in the United States who want to help Honduras and have them help me start a medical clinic in my hometown. He wants to help his mom and his family too. He's excited about learning and growing and more in our leadership program that we're starting. And Luis has been rescued and restored, and he wants to do the same for many other people in Honduras. I want you to hear a little bit straight from Luis as we hear from him.
Hello, my name is Jose Luis Mejia, and I am in school right now, and I'm helping 4th grade, and it's so cool. I'm in the village for 8 years old. I want to tell you guys what this ministry, Heart to Heart, is doing in my life. It's a blessing for me. I was in the street like for 2 years, and it was so hard for me. I was scared of the policeman in Honduras here, and one time they caught me in the street, and they take me to a village in San Pedro Sula. It was so bad. I don't really like it. They don't treat them good. So one time they told me they can move me from that village. So I was there for 1 month, and then I came here to Heart, and I can say that Heart is a good village. Here they treat them good, and I came here, and now through Heart I know Jesus that is most important for me, so I can go to the heaven. God is doing great things in my life, and I want to go to college and study medicine. Yes, I'm here and I'm so blessed. And thank you guys, because you're praying for me. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your love. And thank you for the great things that you guys are doing in here in Honduras. Sending good stuff. And that is love for me. And I appreciate it. God bless you.
In Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 11 and 12 and verse 16, it says, "For thus says the Lord God, Behold, I myself will search for my sheep and will seek them out. As a shepherd seeks out his flock when he is among his sheep that have been scattered, So will I seek out my sheep, and I will rescue them from all places where they have been scattered on a day of clouds and thick darkness. I will seek the lost, and I will bring back the strayed, and I will bind up the injured, and I will strengthen the weak. Luis is one of those lost that God has sought out, that he's brought back, that he's strengthening for the future, and I'm excited to see what God's going to continue to do through Luis. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, it also says, "So, being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you have become very dear to us." And this verse to me is part of the reason why I'm in Honduras, because these children have grown dear to me. I'm not just there to share who Jesus is. That's obviously a big part of it. But it's more than that. I'm there to share who Jesus is in me. I'm there to share what Jesus has done in me. It's more than just sharing the gospel, but it's sharing our very own lives with these kids. Part of the ultimate restoration is when the kids become conduits of restoration, like I said before. But I think another part of the ultimate restoration is about you and about me. God wants to use our weaknesses and our brokenness to minister to others, and through this, not just bring restoration in others' lives, but to bring restoration in our lives. God wants to restore us. So what's my brokenness? Well, I'm sure I could talk about a lot of things, but you don't want to hear about all that tonight. But some things that God's restored in me is apathy. God's changing my apathy to passion. Maybe this is part of the reason why I'm in Honduras. When I spend time with the kids, I am forced to reject my apathy and get involved in their lives. I can't help it. God changes my apathy to passion because of his heart for them. Now God's asking me to be an example to many of the kids who feel apathetic for their future, apathetic about helping a country that's done nothing but abuse and neglect them. God's restoring my apathy, and he's using it to restore it in others. Another area of my brokenness is selfishness. God's changing my selfishness to selflessness. Really, if I think about it, I'm a reluctant advocate. I hate the spotlight. I don't really like speaking at things like this. I'd rather be playing with the kids. I don't usually want to speak up for others, but it's not because I'm so selfless to begin with. It's the opposite. I'm selfish. I don't want to feel uncomfortable, and I don't want people to pick apart my decision to do something crazy like move to Honduras, sell everything I have, and help kids down there. But God's restoring this in me so that I can help restore lives in Honduras. The great theologian, I don't think you can really call him that, but Neil Young once said, "Holding back is so close to stealing." Too often this has been the story of my life. I've been a thief from too many people. God's blessed me so richly, and yet I've held back. There have been beggars that God's put in my path, and I've walked right on by. But I don't want to hold back anymore. I want to love like Jesus loved. There's a short story in the Bible that I've shared recently in some messages about Jesus' interaction with a leper. And when Jesus was walking along one day, he saw a leper, and this leper came to him and said, "Jesus, if you're willing, you can make me clean. You can heal me." In this moment, the leper wanted to be healed of his leprosy. But more than that, the leper wanted to know that his identity wasn't an outcast, abandoned, left to rot, worthless member of society. So what did Jesus do? Jesus crossed the cultural boundaries. He walked right up to the leper. He reached out. He touched him despite being forbidden to do so. And he said to him, "I am willing. You are clean. You are healed." Jesus went beyond healing him physically. Jesus restored his identity. This is what I want to do with my life. I don't want to just help people, but I want to help restore the identity that Jesus has for them. I want to hear and see the leper that God puts in my path, and I want to push past my fear and approach him and lovingly restore the perspective of his identity. I want to disregard my own security for the possibility of restoring hope in another's life. That's why I'm in Honduras. I want to live restoration so that restoration might happen to others. See, the ultimate restoration is not just about these beautiful kids, although that's a lot of it. It's about you, and it's about me too. It's about all of God's family being restored to wholeness through the brokenness of our weaknesses. So maybe for you, God's asking you to be a part of a life in Honduras, not just for that life, but because he knows it's good for you. Maybe the one who also needs restoring is you, like it was me. Maybe what it will take is a broken life in Honduras that God calls you to love, that God calls you to serve, and that God calls you to support. And I'm so thankful for so many people in here that's already doing this. You've done well, and God's already restored many of you. But maybe there's some tonight that I know God is speaking to you right now, and you're feeling a great tension. It's a tension that we feel a lot of times when we're on the verge of doing something that's great, but something that's also scary. Sometimes there's a step before us, and it's a step to join an adventure, but there's always a certain amount of risk that comes with this step. There's always risk involved in the commitment to love, but will you take the risk? Will you fight the fear and get involved in a life that needs you and a life that you need? So tonight, as I close, I don't really want to just ask for your money. You can give that too. But really I want to ask for you tonight. Because I know in Heart to Heart we don't just want faceless sponsors for our kids. We want you. God's not just looking for random, dispassionate acts of philanthropy, but he's looking for disciples to be immersed in the causes that they give to. So will you get involved tonight? Again, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8 says, "So being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you have become very dear to us." So my question tonight is, will these kids become dear to you? They become dear to me, and God's restoring me as he restores them, for his glory and for our good. I want you to hear one more story, one more kid tonight from Alexis. Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege.
Hi, my name is Alexis. I am 14 years old. I have lived in the village for 8 years. I love being in this place. I love living in the village. And let me tell you why. Before I came here, my mom was very poor, so she brought us to live in here. So I want to tell you that I love my brothers and sisters. I love my parents that take care of me. I love the people who surround me. And I just want to tell you that when I grow up, I want to be a pilot, but before to get a soccer scholarship. And so I wanted to serve Honduras as people have served. Thank you.